Hi, I'm Candy from Quilt Vine, and thank you for joining me for round 4 for Rising, the Around the Block of the Month. And this is a very simple round. It's just a little time consuming with all the cutting that needs to be done as we're going along and the trimming. But follow along and I know you will enjoy it. For Rising round 4, we just have 2 fabrics. We have our background fabric and we have our print fabric. For your print fabric, you should have a ½ yard, and you're going to cut your 4-inch blocks or your 4-inch squares from that. You need 36 of them. From your background fabric, before you do anything with that, I want you to press it, and I want you to use starch. We're going to use, you can use Best Press, Flatter, Arterial Magic, whatever starch you prefer to use. And we're going to iron your background fabric with starch. Once it's been starched, then you cut your 36 4-inch squares and your 5 strips at 1½ inches by width of fabric. And once you have all 36 of your 4-inch squares cut, you need a Friction pen or a Friction marker, or even just a lead pencil is good. Just make sure you don't use a permanent marker, or do not use a ballpoint pen. Use a pencil or Friction marking tool or some kind of removable marking tool. So you're going to take your background fabrics and you're going to draw a line from both diagonals. You want to start in the center and draw out. Then you're going to turn it and you're going to do it the other way. And you need to use a ruler, something that you would use with a rotary cutter. Because when you're drawing your second line, then you want to take it and just do a little slit, about 1 inch or 2. And you're going to do that with all 36 of them. And I'll show you again. I have found that it's quicker to do this at the same time instead of draw all your lines, put them off to the side, and then come back and do all your cuts. It's much quicker if while you have your ruler in place to go ahead and do your cut. And you just want it in the center, one direction, just about 1 inch or 2. And I'll show you one more time. We're going to draw the diagonal. And again, you want to start in the center, because if you start here on the edge, you could pull up that corner. So you want to start in the center and draw out. Then you turn it. And you start in the center and draw out. And then while your ruler is in place, take your rotary cutter and do a little slit, just like that. And when we get to the next step, you'll see how handy that comes in, having done that ahead of time. So go ahead and mark and slit all 36 of your background fabrics. Now that we have all of our background fabrics marked and have that little slit in them, we're going to start sewing them together with our print fabrics. So we're going to take a print fabric, right side up, and we're going to put a background on top of it, and we're going to line it up on the edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take and sew the whole way around it with our 1/4 inch foot. And make sure you have a good 1/4 inch or a scant 1/4 inch. You don't want it too big. Okay, and I like to have a leader and ender here. And I'm just going to start. So one side, and I want to make sure I get past that diagonal line. So I'm past that 1/4 inch. Then I'll lift my needle up, pull it out, and turn, and I'm going to go down the other side. Same thing, go past that diagonal line, get up, turn, and now we're going to do the other side. And you always want to start before that diagonal line so that your seam lines are crossing. Oops, my hand's in the way. I'm going to turn again. And I'm going to put my seams. Now I'm going to cut off my little leader there. And I'm going to finish. I'm going to come down the home stretch here. Try to keep my hands out of the way. And now I'm going to chain piece in the next one. Take a print fabric, put a background on top, and I'm going to start writing again. Okay, turn, come down that side. Turn, come down the third side. Turn, and I'm the home stretch, come down the fourth side. Before I do that, I'm going to cut off this previous one I had here and throw that off to the side. And I'll show you with one more, because I know that first one, I think my hand might have been in your way. So we're going to print fabric, put a background on top, and we're going to start. Okay, feed it in there, start stitching around. Okay, pick it up, turn. Pick it up, turn. Pick it up, turn. And on that fourth side, I'm going to put my needle down. I'll sew a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. See that I need to cut off this one that I've had on there from before. And then just keep going. And I'll do that with all 36 of them. So now let me show you. All right. The next step now, we're going to be cutting on these diagonals. So all 36 are sewn around the entire perimeter with their backgrounds onto our print fabrics. Now where you had that slit, this is where we're going to cut. Now you want to make sure you haven't pressed it again at this point, because if you used a Friction pen, that X would be gone. So we've just sewn around it, no pressing. Now we're going to put our scissors in that slit and cut the whole way out there to that corner. Turn it around, cut out to that corner. Now we need to do it with these other two sides. And flip it around again. Okay, now we're going to press. And your friction lines, if you use the Friction pen, your lines will go away. You might want to use a little bit of starch or a little bit of flatter or best press, whatever you use. Let me get straight here. Okay, I've got some flatter today. This is Fig, is the fragrance, and it's very good. Okay, so just a little squirt of that. Okay, I'm gonna just set it, and then we're gonna do each point. I just come out over, I set it, lift it up, roll it over, set it, lift it up, and roll it over, set it, lift it up, and roll it over. Those aren't staying down real good because by the third time, let's just give it a little shot there. Okay, there's my first one pressed. Then we're going to come back and trim off those corners, but I'm going to do that in a few minutes. So let's show you one more. Maybe a little closer here for you. All right, that slit that we had there, we're just going to stick our scissors in, and you want to use nice sharp scissors, and we're going to cut from the center out toward the corner, all 4 of those lines from the center out. Then using our favorite spray, we set it, roll it over, and I like to turn, set it, roll it over, set it, roll it over, set it, and roll it over. And if they're kind of sticking up a little bit, you want to give it another little shot. You don't want to put too much on because you don't want to steam it. You don't want them to shrink. Just want to set it. Okay, now we're going to do that with all 36 of our sets sewn together like this. Once all 36 of those are done, then I'm going to come back and we're going to trim off these little points here. Again, I like to do that with scissors. I'll just take my scissors and just go so it's straight along there. Again, this is another good job to do while you're sitting watching something on TV or listening to Audible. You just, because 36 times 4, that's a lot. What's that, 148 maybe? I don't know. But something like that. Anyway, so you're going to do that with all of these 36 blocks that you have. You're going to trim all those corners off. Okay, and we're going to do that with all 36 of them. Okay? Once we have all of our blocks sewn together and trimmed up and have the little corners trimmed off that were sticking out, now it's time to start sewing them together. And we're just simply just 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to take a pair and line them up, and with my 1/4 inch foot, I'm just going to start sewing. Now, for this border, we need 2 long strips of 8 and 2 long strips of 10. So what I'll do is, first I'll go along and sew all of my pairs together. Once you have your pairs all sewn together, you're going to take 2 of the sets of pairs and lay them off to the side, because they'll be for the long borders where you need 10 of the blocks sewn together. So I'll put 2 sets of pairs like this off to the side. So after we sew our pairs together, we're going to come back and press all of them. Let me just press these here that I have real quick. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to sew all my pairs together. So for my 36 blocks, I'll have 18 pairs. Then I'm going to take 2 of the sets of pairs and put them off to the side. So then I'm going to take, with the rest of them, I'm going to take all of the other pairs and sew them together into 4s. And then I'll press, and then I'll take all of the 4s and sew them together into 8s, and then I'll press. Then I'll take 2 of the 8s, and to those, I'll add those 2 that I've set aside. So I'm going to sew these long strips together, and it's going to look like this, like what you see in your, I've already added mine on. So it'll see here like it looks in our pattern. You're going to have 2 of these that have 8 blocks, and you'll have 2 that have 10 blocks. Then we're going to take and put the 2 8s on opposite sides of our quilt top, pin them down, sew them on. Then we'll take the 2 10s and sew them on the other sides of our quilt top, pin them down, sew them on. And then with that 1.5 inch strip that you've cut, you're going to sew those 5 strips together end to end and measure and cut them and sew them on. And then that is round 4 finished and complete. Round 4 is really a very easy round. It is a little time consuming because of all the cutting and everything. But see here, I have kind of the center blued out, and round 4 is just around there. It's these flat on points, and then that little border. So this one should go pretty well for you, and thank you for doing Rising, the Rounded Block of the Month with Quilt Vine, and we will see you next month.